Hi friends, thank you for taking time out of your week to spend a little with me. I appreciate you. This week our case suggestion comes from Victoria, so thank you in advance. Now, I ask you all to join me as we remember Dana Satterfield. Dana Shailene Fowler was born on November 16, 1967 in Spartanburg, South Carolina to parents Robert and Belle Fowler. She was described as being beautiful and having a warm personality. Dana met and married a man named Paul Michael Satterfield, and together they welcomed 2 children, Ashley and Brandon. Dana's children were her world, and her family claimed mothering came to her naturally. She was a great mother. Dana was passionate about looking her best and enjoyed making others feel the same way. So Dana decided to take her skills and become an entrepreneur, opening her own beauty salon, Roebuck Hair and Tanning Center in Roebuck, South Carolina. Dana was hardworking and lively. She was always willing to offer a helping hand to her community and made friends easily. Dana just loved life. On the morning of July 31st, 1995, Dana and Mike scrambled to get the kids together and head out for work. The family made plans to have dinner that evening and set out for the day, with Dana heading to the salon. Dana arrived early, as she always did, and saw clients all day. She saw her last client and started to close up the salon for the day around 6:30 p.m. when a door-to-door saleswoman arrived. Diane Harris sold cleaning products. Dana and Diane shared a good conversation and found they had mutual interest. Dana purchased a cleaning solution from Diane, and the two said their goodbyes. Diane left the salon to try to make a few more sales before heading home for the day. Around 7:30, Diane passed by the salon again, where she saw Dana inside cleaning. Diane made 2 more house calls before returning to the salon area between 8 and 8:45 p.m., where she waited for her ride home. Diane was surprised to see the lights still on inside of the salon, but she didn't bother Dana. Shortly before 9 p.m., Diane heard 3 loud bangs coming from inside the salon. When she looked in its direction, she noticed the lights were now off. Diane walked toward the salon when she came face to face with a man who was coming out of the salon from a window. The man had his shirt pulled up as if he had fallen through the window. Believing the man was a burglar, Diane ran to the liquor store next door. Before she made it, Diane and the man made eye contact briefly, before she ran one way and he ran the other. Diane made it to a nearby home where she called 911. After 9 p.m., the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department arrived on scene, where they found a window screen discarded on the ground and the window wide open. They entered the business expecting a robbery, but instead were met with a much grislier scene. Located in the men's bathroom was the lifeless body of Dana. Her body was badly bruised. She was found tied to the water heater by her neck with a duffel bag strap. It was determined that Dana was beaten, strangled, and assaulted. Forensics processed the scene, taking a hair sample and body fluids found on Dana. The samples were sent to a lab for analysis. Based on the scene in the salon, robbery was in fact not the motive. They discovered Dana's purse, which had money, and her credit cards. There was money also inside of the cash register. The area near the salon was canvassed, but the search turned up no leads. Dana's husband Mike arrived shortly after the police, when he received word from a fellow church member that there was heavy police activity at Dana's salon. Police immediately turned attention to Mike. The violent nature of the crime suggested a crime of passion, and rumor had it that Dana and Mike were separated. To add to his suspicion, police also discovered a fingerprint on the water heater that later matched Mike's. Mike admitted to police that he and Dana were separated, but were jointly and amicably trying to repair their marriage. They even spent the previous evening together with their children. Mike owned a heating and air conditioning shop nearby, and explained his fingerprints were only at the scene because he installed the water heater just weeks earlier. In addition to this information, Mike also had a solid alibi. Based on the coroner's estimated time of death, Mike confirmed he was at home with his children over 15 miles away, meaning it would be nearly impossible for him to have made it to the salon and back home in that time. Based on this, Mike was cleared as a suspect. The investigators then turned their attention to their only lead, Diane Harris. Diane was nervous and explained she came face to face with the perpetrator and it left her very shaken. With the help of the police, Diane was able to provide a description and create a composite sketch of the suspect. The sketch was publicized, and just as police hoped for, another lead came forward. Ken Smith, a patron of the salon, told police he believed he'd seen the killer that day. Ken, who had an appointment that day, reported he saw a man who resembled the sketch enter a blue and white Ford Bronco near the salon after 8:30 p.m. Several other witnesses came forward, believing they also saw the man loitering near the salon. From these additional witnesses, another sketch was developed. While the sketches were circulated, police launched an APB for the blue and white Bronco. One possible match turned up, Mary Ann Vick, one of Dana's customers. Mary was interviewed and denied being in the area at the time. The news of Dana's murder was a shock for her. Ken was also asked to review Mary's Bronco, where he claimed it was not a match to the one he'd seen. Months passed, and while police waited for DNA results on the samples, they continued to interview Dana's customers. Interviewing the customers did not bring any new suspects to the forefront, and Dana's case sadly sat with no developments. 2 years after the investigation started, police received a call from an inmate in a South Carolina prison. The inmate believed his cellmate, Russell Quinn, was responsible for the murder of Dana. Russell carried a picture of Dana and talked frequently about Dana, claiming he was part of the murder. Police knew jail talk was not a solid source, but they had someone who could help. Russell's mugshot was provided in a lineup and shown to Diane Harris. Diane was able to pull Russell's picture from the group and confirmed he was the suspect. A sample of Russell's DNA was provided and compared to the samples from the scene. Russell Quinn was found not to be a match to the sample and was written off as a suspect. Over the next decade, many suspects would be investigated, but ultimately cleared. It seemed the case would never be solved. But then, in October of 2005, a development came. Michael Pace contacted police originally shortly after Dana's murder, claiming his friend, Jonathan Vick, then 17, had a crush on Dana. On several occasions, Michael Pace tried to tell investigators about Jonathan and his suspicions. It wasn't until 2005 that his concerns were genuinely considered. Michael claimed on the night of Dana's murder, he and Jonathan sat at the snack bar at the bowling alley where Michael worked. The two often talked about girls, but Jonathan was really fixed on Dana. He told Michael he was going to ask her out because he knew she was separated from her husband. Michael couldn't take him seriously since Dana was much older than his friend, and Jonathan became defensive. Michael stated Jonathan dropped him off at his house around 7 p.m. and claimed he was going to get his hair cut at Dana's because she stayed open late. Originally, Michael didn't put two and two together until the media coverage started. Once Dana's murder became public information, he shared an anonymous tip with the sheriff's office 3 months later. Michael contacted again years later when Dana's case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries. By his fourth request, Michael included his name on the tip, and the investigation into Jonathan began. Jonathan, who was 28 at the time, was married with 2 children. Jonathan bore a striking resemblance to the sketch and was questioned by police. It was discovered that when Jonathan was a teenager, he lived near the salon with his mother and often drove around in her Ford Bronco. Jonathan confirmed he used to see Dana as a customer because his mother also received services from her. When police asked Jonathan if he would provide a DNA sample, his cooperation stopped. Investigators tried to get a court order to obtain Jonathan's DNA, but due to a lack of evidence, Jonathan was not compelled to provide a sample. In order to get clearance from the judge, the police had to dig deeper. As it turned out, in the last decade, Jonathan was in and out of hot water. He received a general discharge from the Marines after 2 assault convictions. Then, as a civilian, he was arrested twice, once for domestic assault and the other for vandalism, but both charges were dropped. In addition to his charges, Jonathan's ex-girlfriend and the mother of his first child was interviewed. She explained to police that Jonathan had a bad temper. During a heated argument, she claimed Jonathan told her if she didn't do what he said, she would end up like Dana. With his violent past unlocked, the judge deemed this time the evidence was sufficient enough to obtain a warrant. A SLED DNA analyst determined the semen found on Dana matched Jonathan by a probability of 900 million to 1. Jonathan Vick was arrested on the charge of first-degree murder in October of 2005. Jonathan's trial started in November of 2006 and took place over the course of 4 days. During the trial, Jonathan's defense leaned heavily into a hair sample that was found in Dana. Based on mitochondrial DNA, the hair was determined not to be a match to Jonathan. They argued that the DNA analyst cannot place a time frame for when the semen got on Dana. They claimed that Jonathan could have been with Dana before she was murdered. However, prosecution believed the hair was likely a customer's. The male bathroom in the salon doubled as a laundry room, meaning towels, tools, etc. would be sanitized here. In addition to this, the prosecution brought several male customers to testify. These customers confirmed they used the restroom that day and often did, meaning the hair could have been anyone's. Diane Harris was not involved in the trial due to unreliability. On 2 occasions, she was asked to identify the perpetrator from a 6-man lineup, and during both instances, she chose a different man. Prosecution also brought forth Michael Crook, who claimed to see a man crouched behind a nearby business, just watching the beauty salon on the night of Dana's murder. He stated this man looked like Jonathan Vick. Dana's friend and assistant, Sharon, also testified that Jonathan was a frequent customer of the salon. She detailed how he liked his haircut and mentioned he was very quiet. It took the jury just 20 minutes to find Jonathan guilty of Dana's murder. Despite being 17 at the time of the murder, Jonathan was tried as an adult, but was not eligible for the death penalty. In December of 2006, Jonathan was convicted of Dana's murder. He was given a life sentence and an additional 30 years for sexual assault. Jonathan is currently incarcerated at the Lieber Correctional Institution in Ridgeville, South Carolina. In 2010, Jonathan received an additional 3 years for assaulting an inmate and threatening to kill a guard and his family. He will be eligible for parole in 2035 when he is 57 years old. Dana's daughter, Ashley, is now a married woman with children of her own. Ashley became a victim's advocate for the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office. She also created a jailhouse program that helps inform inmates of the effects their violent crimes have on their victims and their families. The pain of losing her mother will never go away, per Ashley, but she states her advocacy work has helped her overcome some of the emotions. Ashley stated, "You don't get over it, you just learn to live with it. So this is kind of my way of living with it." Dana Satterfield was laid to rest in the Heritage Memorial Gardens in Roebuck, South Carolina. Hi friends, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, so leave them below and we can chat about this case. If you found this to be informative, consider giving the video a thumbs up to let YouTube know you want more from me. And lastly, if you're not subscribed yet, you should, because we would love to have you under the ash tree. Thank you again, friends, for taking the time to join me, and also to Victoria for suggesting Dana's case. I appreciate all of your love and support. It truly means the most to me. But for now, we must part ways. So stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.